The morning sun cast golden rays across London as Westminster Abbey prepared for the most significant ceremony in decades. Inside the historic walls, photographers adjusted their lenses while dignitaries from around the world took their seats. The ancient stones seemed to hum with anticipation, knowing they would witness history unfold once again. At Kensington Palace, the Wales family began their carefully orchestrated morning routine. Prince William stood before the mirror, adjusting his ceremonial uniform with practiced precision. The weight of the moment was not lost on him. Today his father would be crowned king, and the monarchy would officially enter a new era. His fingers worked methodically on the brass buttons, each one representing years of preparation for this day. Catherine emerged from her dressing room, a vision of elegance in her specially commissioned gown. The ivory silk creation featured intricate embroidery that caught the light with every movement. Her stylist made final adjustments to the flowing fabric while Catherine remained remarkably calm, her years of royal duties having prepared her for moments like these. She glanced at herself one last time, knowing millions would scrutinize every detail of her appearance. In the nursery wing, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Princess Charlotte sat patiently as her hair was arranged in perfect ringlets, her small hands folded in her lap with remarkable composure for an 8-year-old. She had been practicing her curtsies for weeks, determined to perform flawlessly when the cameras captured her every move. Her dress, a miniature masterpiece of pale blue silk, hung nearby waiting for the final fitting. Prince George, now 10 years old and second in line to the throne, understood the gravity of the occasion better than his younger siblings. He stood still as his formal attire was adjusted, his expression serious beyond his years. The young prince had been briefed extensively about royal protocol and knew that today marked a significant milestone in his journey toward eventual kingship. His small crown sat waiting on a velvet cushion, specially crafted for this historic moment. Little Prince Louis, at 5 years old, brought an air of unpredictability to the morning preparations. His energy was infectious as he bounced between his parents and siblings, his excitement barely contained. The youngest Wales child had a reputation for spontaneous moments during royal events, and everyone wondered what surprises he might bring to such a solemn occasion. His miniature ceremonial uniform had been tailored with extra care, knowing it needed to withstand his natural exuberance. The household staff moved with quiet efficiency, ensuring every detail was perfect. Shoes were polished to mirror brightness, jewelry was carefully inspected, and transportation schedules were confirmed multiple times. The responsibility of presenting the royal family flawlessly weighed heavily on everyone involved. Even the family pet seemed to sense the importance of the day, staying unusually calm as activity swirled around them. As departure time approached, the family gathered in the main sitting room for a final review. William and Catherine exchanged glances filled with mutual support and understanding. They had navigated countless public appearances together, but today felt different, more momentous, more historically significant. The children lined up beside their parents, each one embodying the future of the British monarchy in their own unique way. Outside, crowds had been gathering since dawn, hoping to catch a glimpse of the royal family. The streets surrounding Kensington Palace buzzed with excitement as royal watchers positioned themselves behind barriers, cameras ready. Police officers maintained careful security perimeters while allowing the celebratory atmosphere to flourish. The anticipation was palpable, spreading through the crowd like electricity. The official convoy vehicles arrived precisely on schedule, their polished surfaces reflecting the morning light. Security personnel conducted final checks while drivers reviewed the carefully planned route to Westminster Abbey. Every possible scenario had been rehearsed, every timing calculated to the minute. The machinery of royal protocol moved with clockwork precision, ensuring nothing would disrupt this historic journey. Catherine took one last look in the full-length mirror, adjusting her tiara with gentle precision. The sapphire and diamond piece had been worn by royal women for generations, carrying with it the weight of tradition and continuity. She felt the connection to all those who had worn it before, drawing strength from their example as she prepared to support her husband and children through this momentous day. The ornate doors of Kensington Palace swung open with ceremonial grandeur as the Wales family stepped into the crisp morning air. A collective gasp rose from the assembled crowd as they caught their first glimpse of the royal family in their full coronation splendor. Cameras clicked rapidly, capturing every angle of their carefully coordinated appearance as they moved with practiced grace toward their waiting vehicles. Prince William helped his younger children into the state car while maintaining his composed demeanor despite the chaos of photographers and cheering crowds. His protective instincts as a father merged seamlessly with his royal duties, creating a natural authority that commanded respect from everyone present. The children responded to his calm guidance, their earlier excitement channeled into proper royal behavior as they waved politely to the gathering spectators. Catherine paused briefly at the car door, her radiant smile acknowledging the crowd's enthusiasm while maintaining the dignity expected of a future queen. Her choice to wear British designers had been deliberate, supporting the country's fashion industry while showcasing the elegance of homegrown talent. The morning breeze caught her gown's flowing fabric, creating a picture-perfect moment that photographers captured from every possible angle. Inside the luxurious vehicle, the family settled into their seats with a mixture of excitement and solemnity. Prince George sat tall beside his father, his posture reflecting years of royal training while his eyes sparkled with genuine interest in the unfolding pageantry. Princess Charlotte smoothed her skirts carefully, her natural grace evident in every movement as she prepared herself for the public scrutiny that awaited them at Westminster Abbey. Prince Louis pressed his face to the window, marveling at the thousands of people lining the streets with flags and banners. His innocent wonder provided a touching counterpoint to the formal atmosphere, reminding everyone watching that beneath the royal titles were simply family members sharing an extraordinary experience together. His parents exchanged amused glances as he pointed excitedly at the colorful displays of royal support. The convoy moved through London's historic streets at a measured pace, allowing maximum visibility for the crowds that had waited hours for this moment. Police motorcycles led the procession while mounted officers maintained order along the route, their ceremonial uniforms adding to the spectacle's grandeur. Every street corner was packed with well-wishers waving Union Jack flags and calling out congratulations to the royal family. Street performers had positioned themselves strategically along the route, entertaining the waiting crowds with music and dancing while maintaining respectful boundaries. Children sat on their parents' shoulders, many wearing miniature crowns and royal-themed costumes in honor of the occasion. The festive atmosphere transformed London into a living celebration of British heritage and tradition, with the Wales family at its center. As they passed Buckingham Palace, the children pressed closer to the windows to wave at the crowds gathered around the famous landmark. The palace's flags flew at full mast and the guards stood at perfect attention in their iconic red uniforms and tall black hats. Tourists mixed with locals in the crowd, all united in their desire to witness this historic moment in British royal history. The Abbey's distinctive twin towers came into view, their Gothic spires reaching toward the cloudy sky like ancient sentinels guarding centuries of royal tradition. Westminster Abbey had hosted coronations for nearly 1,000 years, and its weathered stones had witnessed the crowning of kings and queens throughout British history. The building seemed to radiate solemnity and significance as the royal convoy approached its final destination. Security personnel maintained discreet but visible positions throughout the area, their professional vigilance ensuring the family's safety while allowing the celebratory atmosphere to flourish naturally. Sharpshooters positioned on nearby rooftops scanned the crowds through high-powered scopes, their presence a reminder of the serious responsibility involved in protecting the royal family during such high-profile public appearances. The vehicle slowed as they approached the Abbey's entrance, where a red carpet had been rolled out in preparation for their arrival. Television crews from around the world had positioned their cameras to capture every moment of the family's entrance, knowing that millions of viewers were watching the live broadcast with anticipation. The children straightened in their seats, understanding instinctively that their most public moment was about to begin. William reached over to adjust George's collar one final time, while Catherine smoothed Charlotte's hair with maternal precision. Even Prince Louis seemed to sense the importance of the moment, his earlier fidgeting replaced by an unusual stillness as the reality of the situation settled over him. The family shared a moment of quiet connection before the doors would open and thrust them into the spotlight of history. The state car came to a gentle stop before Westminster Abbey's great west door, where centuries of monarchs had entered for their most sacred moments. A crimson carpet stretched from the vehicle to the ancient threshold, flanked by hundreds of military personnel standing at perfect attention in their ceremonial dress uniforms. The sight was breathtaking in its grandeur, a living tableau of British pageantry that had been refined over generations of royal tradition. Prince William emerged first, his tall frame commanding immediate attention from the assembled dignitaries and media representatives. He moved with the confidence of a man born to this moment, every gesture calculated to project strength and dignity while maintaining the approachable warmth that had endeared him to the public. His uniform, adorned with military honors and royal insignia, caught the light as he turned to assist his family from the vehicle. Catherine stepped gracefully onto the red carpet, her presence immediately transforming the atmosphere around the Abbey's entrance. Her gown flowed behind her like liquid silk, and the ancient sapphire tiara sparkled brilliantly in the morning light. She paused for a moment, allowing the photographers to capture her radiant smile before moving to help organize the children for their procession into the historic building. Princess Charlotte emerged next, her small hand clutching her mother's, with quiet determination. The 8-year-old princess had been practicing this moment for weeks, and her composed demeanor reflected her natural grace and careful preparation. Her pale blue dress complemented her mother's ensemble perfectly, creating a visual harmony that spoke to the thoughtful planning behind every detail of their appearance. Prince George stepped onto the carpet with remarkable poise for a 10-year-old, his understanding of his future role evident in his serious expression and careful movements. He straightened his shoulders unconsciously, already displaying the bearing of a future king despite his youth. His small ceremonial sword remained perfectly positioned at his side, a symbol of the responsibilities that would one day rest upon his shoulders. Prince Louis bounded from the car with characteristic enthusiasm, his 5-year-old energy barely contained by the formal setting. His parents exchanged knowing glances, both amused and slightly apprehensive about how their youngest would handle the solemn ceremony ahead. Despite his youth, Louis seemed to understand the importance of the moment, attempting to match his siblings' more controlled behavior while still radiating his natural charm. The Dean of Westminster emerged to greet the family personally, his ceremonial robes flowing as he approached with dignified steps. Behind him, a procession of clergy members formed neat lines, their presence adding to the religious solemnity of the occasion. The ancient stones of the abbey seemed to resonate with centuries of prayer and ceremony, creating an atmosphere of reverence that touched everyone present. Television commentators whispered their observations to millions of viewers worldwide, describing the intricate details of the family's attire and noting the children's remarkable composure during such a public moment. Royal watchers analyzed every gesture and expression, searching for clues about the family's emotions and relationships while providing historical context for the unfolding ceremony. The crowds pressed against the barriers, their cheers creating a wall of sound that echoed off the Abbey's stone walls. Union Jack flags waved enthusiastically while people called out words of encouragement and support to the royal family. Children in the crowd wore paper crowns and clutched small British flags, their faces bright with excitement at witnessing such a historic moment firsthand. Military bands positioned around the Abbey grounds played stirring renditions of traditional British marches, their music adding a triumphant soundtrack to the visual spectacle. The brass instruments gleamed in the morning sun while uniformed musicians maintained perfect formation, despite the chaos of activity surrounding them. Their melodies seemed to weave together the ancient traditions with the contemporary celebration, unfolding before the Abbey's doors. Inside the Abbey, distinguished guests from around the world had taken their assigned seats, creating a gathering of unprecedented diplomatic significance. Presidents, prime ministers, and royal family members from dozens of countries sat together in the hallowed space, their presence testament to the global importance of the British monarchy and this historic transition of power. As the family prepared to enter the Abbey, William gathered his children close for a final moment of private connection before they would be swept up in the formal ceremony. He whispered quiet words of encouragement to each child, his role as father taking precedence over his royal duties in these precious seconds. Catherine adjusted her tiara one final time, then reached out to take Louis's hand, knowing her youngest would need extra guidance during the long ceremony ahead. The great doors of Westminster Abbey swung open with ceremonial majesty, revealing the magnificent interior filled with centuries of history and tradition. Golden light streamed through the ancient stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across the stone floor where kings and queens had walked for nearly a millennium. The moment had arrived for the Wales family to take their place in this continuing story of British royal heritage. The Wales family stepped across the threshold of Westminster Abbey into a world transformed by centuries of royal tradition and contemporary ceremony. The vast interior space seemed to pulse with history, its soaring Gothic arches creating a natural cathedral of sound that amplified every footstep and whisper. Thousands of candles flickered throughout the nave, their warm light dancing across ancient stone carved by craftsmen who had worked on royal ceremonies for generations of monarchs. Prince William led his family down the aisle with measured steps, each footfall echoing against the stone floor that had supported the weight of kings and queens throughout British history. His children followed closely, their eyes wide with wonder at the magnificent spectacle surrounding them. The Abbey's interior had been decorated with elaborate floral arrangements featuring British-grown flowers, their fragrance mingling with the lingering scent of centuries of incense and prayer. Distinguished guests rose to their feet as the family passed, creating a wave of movement that rippled through the packed congregation. World leaders who normally commanded attention themselves became respectful observers, acknowledging the unique significance of this moment in British constitutional history. The sight of presidents and prime ministers standing in deference to a 10-year-old boy spoke to the enduring power of hereditary monarchy in the modern world. Catherine guided her children with subtle gestures, her maternal instincts perfectly balanced with royal protocol as they navigated the formal procession. Princess Charlotte walked with remarkable grace, her training evident in every carefully placed step, while Prince George maintained the serious demeanor appropriate for his position as second in line to the throne. Their composure impressed seasoned royal watchers who understood the pressure of performing before such a distinguished audience. Prince Louis provided moments of innocent charm that softened the formal atmosphere without disrupting the ceremony's dignity. His wide-eyed fascination with the Abbey's magnificent interior was infectious, reminding everyone present that beneath the royal titles and ancient traditions were simply family members sharing an extraordinary experience. When he pointed excitedly at the elaborate ceiling decorations, his parents gently redirected his attention while smiling at his natural curiosity. The Abbey's choir, positioned in the ancient carved stalls, had prepared for months to provide the musical foundation for this historic ceremony. Their voices rose in perfect harmony, filling the vast space with melodies that had echoed through these walls during coronations stretching back nearly 1,000 years. The combination of traditional hymns and contemporary compositions created a musical bridge between Britain's royal past and its evolving future. Television cameras, discreetly positioned throughout the Abbey, captured every moment of the family's progress while respecting the sacred nature of the space. Directors in remote control rooms coordinated dozens of camera angles to provide viewers worldwide with intimate access to this historic ceremony, while maintaining the dignity expected of such a solemn religious occasion. The technical achievement of broadcasting from within the ancient walls represented a marriage of cutting-edge technology with timeless tradition. As they reached their designated seats in the front section of the congregation, the Wales children demonstrated the fruits of their extensive preparation. Prince George took his position with the bearing of a future king, while Princess Charlotte arranged her skirts with practiced elegance. Prince Louis, despite his youth, seemed to understand the importance of sitting still and paying attention during the lengthy ceremony that lay ahead. The ceremonial objects used in royal coronations for centuries had been carefully arranged throughout the Abbey, their presence connecting this modern ceremony to the unbroken chain of British royal tradition. Ancient crowns, orbs, and scepters gleamed under the carefully arranged lighting, each piece carrying stories of the monarchs who had held them during their own moments of sacred transformation from royal heir to sovereign ruler. Members of the extended royal family filled nearby pews, their presence creating a living family tree of British monarchy spanning multiple generations. Elderly relatives who had witnessed previous coronations sat alongside younger family members for whom this would be their first experience of such historic pageantry. The gathering represented both continuity and change within the institution of monarchy itself. Foreign dignitaries marveled at the ceremony's elaborate choreography, noting how seamlessly ancient religious traditions blended with contemporary constitutional requirements. Ambassadors and heads of state who had attended coronations in their own countries recognized the unique character of British royal ceremony, with its combination of spiritual solemnity and popular celebration that had evolved over centuries of practice and refinement. The Archbishop of Canterbury, resplendent in his ceremonial robes, moved through the preliminary portions of the service with practiced dignity. His voice carried clearly throughout the Abbey's vast interior as he began the ancient words that would officially transform a prince into a king. Every syllable had been spoken at coronations throughout British history, creating an unbroken, verbal tradition that connected this moment to the very foundations of English monarchy. As the ceremony progressed toward its climactic moments, the Wales family remained perfectly positioned in their front row seats, each member contributing to the visual narrative of royal continuity and family unity. Their presence served as a living reminder that this ancient institution continued to evolve and adapt while maintaining its essential character and constitutional importance in British society. The moment of crowning approached with mounting anticipation as the Archbishop of Canterbury prepared to perform the most sacred act in British constitutional tradition. Prince William watched his father with deep respect and emotion, understanding that this ceremony would fundamentally change their family's relationship with the British people and the Commonwealth nations. The weight of witnessing his father's transformation from heir to sovereign was evident in his composed but intensely focused expression. Catherine kept a watchful eye on all three children, while maintaining her own dignified participation in the historic ceremony. Princess Charlotte sat with perfect posture, her hands folded in her lap as she had been taught, while her eyes remained fixed on the altar where her grandfather was receiving the ancient symbols of kingship. The 8-year-old seemed to grasp the profound significance of the moment, her serious expression reflecting an understanding beyond her years. Prince George leaned slightly forward in his seat, his natural curiosity about the ceremonial objects and religious rituals battling with his training to remain still and respectful during solemn occasions. As second in line to the throne, he was witnessing the ceremony he would one day experience himself, though that reality seemed impossibly distant to the 10-year-old boy. His parents had prepared him extensively for this moment, explaining the constitutional and spiritual significance of each element in the coronation service. Prince Louis provided the most unpredictable element in the family's otherwise perfectly orchestrated appearance. His 5-year-old attention span was being tested by the lengthy ceremony, but his parents' gentle guidance and the spectacular visual elements of the service kept him reasonably engaged. When he whispered questions about the elaborate proceedings, Catherine answered quietly while maintaining her focus on the altar, demonstrating the multitasking skills that royal mothers must master. The ancient St. Edward's crown was lifted high above the new monarch's head, its centuries-old gold and precious stones catching the light from hundreds of candles and modern spotlights. The crown had been used in coronation ceremonies since 1661, and its weight carried not just the physical burden of gold and jewels, but the constitutional responsibility of ruling over millions of subjects across multiple continents. The moment of actual crowning created a hush throughout the Abbey that seemed to extend beyond its walls to the watching world. Television audiences worldwide held their collective breath as the crown was lowered onto the king's head, officially completing his transformation from prince to sovereign. The Wales children witnessed their grandfather become their monarch, in a ceremony that combined Christian religious tradition with constitutional law, creating a unique moment that existed nowhere else in the modern world. Their front row seats to history would become memories they would carry throughout their lives. The congregation erupted in the traditional cry of "God Save the King" as the coronation reached its climactic moment, with voices rising from every corner of the abbey in a spontaneous expression of loyalty and celebration. Prince William joined his voice with thousands of others, including his own children, as they proclaimed their allegiance to the newly crowned monarch, who was also their beloved family patriarch. Military bands outside the abbey began playing the national anthem, their music audible through the ancient stone walls and adding to the ceremony's triumphant crescendo. The sound of brass instruments and ceremonial drums mixed with the congregation's voices to create a symphony of celebration that had been heard at British coronations for centuries. Street parties throughout London and across the Commonwealth. Nations joined in this musical expression of royal loyalty. Foreign dignitaries observed the ceremony with fascination, many noting how the British had managed to preserve medieval traditions within a modern democratic framework. Presidents and prime ministers who wielded significant power in their own countries witnessed the peaceful transfer of ultimate constitutional authority through religious ceremony and hereditary succession, a system that had evolved over more than a millennium of British history. The newly crowned king's first official acts included receiving homage from senior members of the royal family, with Prince William being among the first to approach the throne and pledge his loyalty. The sight of son kneeling before father in constitutional submission, while maintaining their loving family relationship, encapsulated the complex nature of hereditary monarchy in the 21st century. Princess Charlotte watched with particular interest as the crown jewels were presented and explained, her fascination with the elaborate tiaras and ceremonial swords evident in her bright-eyed attention. The young princess was already showing signs of the same interest in royal regalia that had characterized many royal women throughout history, and her mother made mental notes about future conversations they would have about the significance of these ancient symbols. As the ceremony moved toward its conclusion, the Wales family began to prepare mentally for the challenging logistics of the procession back to Buckingham Palace. Thousands of people would line the streets hoping to catch glimpses of the newly crowned king and his family, while millions more would watch the televised coverage of their journey through London's historic streets. The children's energy levels and attention spans would be tested once again as they transitioned from observers to participants in the ongoing celebration. The final hymns filled Westminster Abbey with voices raised in thanksgiving and celebration, while organ music provided a majestic foundation that seemed to make the ancient stones themselves vibrate with joy. The Wales family joined in the singing, their voices blending with the congregation's in a moment of unity that transcended their royal status and connected them to all the British subjects celebrating this historic transition of monarchical authority. As the coronation ceremony drew to its majestic conclusion, the Wales family prepared for their ceremonial exit from Westminster Abbey, knowing that millions of eyes around the world remained fixed upon their every movement. The ancient building seemed to exhale centuries of accumulated history as the newly crowned monarch and his family began their procession toward the Great West Door, where the modern world awaited their emergence into the bright London afternoon. Prince William walked beside his father, now officially his king, with a mixture of pride and profound responsibility evident in his bearing. The transition they had just witnessed would reshape their family dynamics forever, elevating constitutional duty above even the closest family relationships. His children followed closely, each one carrying themselves with the dignity that had been instilled through years of careful preparation for moments exactly like this one. Catherine managed the complex task of maintaining royal protocol while shepherding 3 young children through the aftermath of a lengthy ceremony. Her experience in high-pressure royal situations served her well as she guided Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, while keeping an eye on Prince George, who was still processing the magnitude of what he had just witnessed. The children's remarkable behavior throughout the ceremony had impressed even the most experienced royal observers. Princess Charlotte emerged from the abbey with her head held high, the 8-year-old having successfully navigated her first major state ceremony with grace that belied her young age. Her careful attention to her posture and movements demonstrated the effectiveness of her royal training, while her genuine smile showed that she had managed to find joy in the historic moment despite its formal constraints. The young princess was already showing signs of the natural poise that would serve her well in future royal duties. Prince George stepped into the sunlight outside Westminster Abbey as a young boy who had just witnessed his own future being enacted before his eyes. The weight of his destiny as a future king seemed more real after seeing his grandfather crowned, though the 10-year-old was still years away from fully comprehending the responsibilities that awaited him. His serious demeanor reflected an intuitive understanding that his life would always be different from other children his age. Prince Louis bounded from the abbey with characteristic enthusiasm, his 5-year-old energy finally released after the constraints of the lengthy ceremony. His natural charm and spontaneous reactions had provided moments of lightness throughout the solemn proceedings, reminding everyone that the royal family remained fundamentally human, despite their constitutional roles. His parents exchanged relieved glances, knowing their youngest had successfully completed his first major state occasion. The crowds outside had swelled during the ceremony, with thousands of additional well-wishers joining those who had waited since dawn for this moment. The sight of the newly crowned king emerging with his son and grandchildren created a powerful visual representation of monarchical continuity that resonated deeply with supporters of the royal institution. Cheers erupted spontaneously as people caught their first glimpse of the family in the bright afternoon light. Television commentators struggled to capture the emotional significance of the moment as the Wales family appeared before the world as the new first family of the British monarchy. Their coordinated appearance, with each member perfectly groomed and appropriately dressed, represented hours of preparation and decades of training in royal protocol. The children's successful participation in such a high-profile ceremony marked an important milestone in their development as future working royals. The procession route back to Buckingham Palace had been lined with barriers since early morning, as thousands of people claimed the best vantage points for viewing the royal family's journey through London. Street vendors sold commemorative items while police maintained order among the enthusiastic crowds, all eager to be part of this historic day. The festive atmosphere transformed central London into a celebration of British heritage and constitutional tradition. Military precision guided every aspect of the family's departure from Westminster Abbey, with security personnel coordinating seamlessly to ensure their safe passage through the crowds of well-wishers and media representatives. The children were quickly settled into their state vehicle while their parents acknowledged the cheering crowds with waves and smiles, fulfilling their duty to be visible and accessible to the British people during this moment of national celebration. As their convoy began the journey toward Buckingham Palace, the Wales family could see Union Jack flags waving from every balcony and window along their route. The outpouring of public support and celebration created a moving tableau of national unity that reminded them of the deep affection the British people held for their royal family. The children pressed against the windows, waving enthusiastically at the crowds while their parents maintained the more measured responses appropriate for senior royals. The family's arrival at Buckingham Palace would mark the beginning of a new chapter in British royal history, with Prince William now serving as heir to a reigning monarch rather than a future king. The children's successful participation in the coronation ceremony had introduced them to the British public as the next generation of working royals, each one destined to play important roles in the monarchy's future evolution and adaptation to changing times. The day's events would be remembered not just as a successful coronation ceremony, but as a demonstration of the royal family's ability to blend ancient traditions with contemporary accessibility. The Wales children's natural behavior and genuine reactions had humanized the formal proceedings, creating connections between the monarchy and ordinary families throughout Britain and the Commonwealth nations. Their grand entrance at Westminster Abbey had marked the beginning of their public lives as senior members of the British royal family, setting the stage for decades of service to the nation and the Commonwealth realms.